Good morning everyone, I hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm Mysticle, and today I'm going to be bringing you the latest in XR news. And in today's video, we have quite a few exciting things that a lot of us have been waiting for. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. First things first, some Quest news. The Quest has now got Unreal Engine 5 support. However, it's missing two of the headline features. Meta is transitioning its support from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5.1 for apps built for the Quest platform. Two of the engine's headlining features aren't designed for mobile though, so it's doubtful we'll ever see them on Quest. In a dev blog post announcing the news, Meta says developers who chose to work with Epic's game engine should start thinking about using UE5 for their Quest apps. The company isn't advising devs to upgrade to UE5 in the middle of a project though. Apps based on UE4 can still be distributed to the Meta Quest store or App Lab. Still, the clock is ticking. Meta will support critical bug fixes for UE4 until the end of 2023. Although devs can access UE4 resources and documentation on Meta's GitHub repository even after the support is scaled back. As you would imagine, Meta says the original 2019 Quest won't be supported. However, the company is slated to provide separate binaries for each device soon, which will allow developers targeting the Quest 1 with an upgrade path. Notably, OpenXR is the only VR API supported by Meta in UE5. So for those developers out there, UE5 is now getting supported, which is great news for those of you that are using Unreal Engine in order to develop your apps. You know, having the latest, most up-to-date version is always the best. And I mean, if you get bug fixes and extra features along with that, that's fantastic. If you guys want to check out the full article, I'm going to leave a link to it down below. If you want to find out more about the features that aren't supported or are, everything is down there for you. Let's move on to the next piece of news. And this, personally, if you ask me, is the largest part of today's video. HTC. Yes, that HTC has now released something completely original. How many times have we asked for full body trackers with inside-out tracking built into them? Kind of like the Quest Pro controllers. These things have cameras built into them and track themselves. And ever since these things came out, people have been asking, why isn't this on a tracker that I can put onto my body? That way, the tracker wouldn't require base stations and wouldn't require a computer to be connected to, meaning you could have trackers like this connected to VR chat along with other titles known as something like a Quest or a VIVE XR Elite or a Pico 4. This hasn't existed until now. We've had IMU-based trackers like Stonks or Slime VR, which work really well, and you can check out my videos on those right up here. However, there's no denying the fact that having cameras being able to track the accurate positioning of a tracker is something a lot of people have wanted for a long time. Well, VIVE has now come out with the standalone full-body tracker. Yes, this is finally it. It's finally happened, and I cannot tell you how excited I am about this. Now, we did currently only get a developer preview, but judging by the excitement in the comments and judging by everyone's excitement all around, this is something that a lot of people are going to love. VIVE is known for creating peripherals like this. They've created an eye tracking module, they've created a face tracking module, and now they're doing standalone full-body trackers. Now, the VIVE pucks were known by pretty much everyone, but not everybody liked them. They required base stations and were big and bulky. These trackers are slimmer and will now track themselves. I do wonder exactly how well they're going to work and how they're going to deal with occlusion. Say you put a blanket over yourself. Will they switch to IMU-based tracking, like Slime VR for example? Or will they just entirely freak out and float away? Kind of like VIVE trackers do when they lose connection to the base stations. I am really interested to try these out, and while we don't know when they're coming out yet, people have already taken a look at them at GDC, and HTC is posting a ton of updates on their YouTube channel and on Twitter, so do make sure to check those two out in case you are interested. I cannot tell you guys how unbelievably excited I am about seeing this finally happen, as the Quest Pro controllers have been treating me very well with their tracking. So having something like this track my body parts is something that I feel like is going to be very accurate and will not require those base stations. Now, again, question remains, how will it compare to something like Sony's Makapi, and how expensive will it be? I feel like the price tag here is definitely going to be a massive factor, as you have two high-resolution cameras, a battery, and an SoC in there, which means it's probably not going to be that cheap. Question is, will it be cheaper than something like Lighthouses plus 3 VIVE pucks? I guess we just need to wait to find out. Either way, let me know your opinions on this one down below. I cannot wait to see what comes of this. And with that being said, let's move on to the next piece of news. The VRCover Treadmill is now shipping to first investors. VRCover, the company behind the Omni VR Treadmill, launched a crowd-based investment campaign in 2020 to fund the VRCover Omni 1, an at-home VR locomotion device targeted at consumers. Now the studio has revealed the final version, pricing, and the news that it's now shipping to early investors. The Omni 1 units are now headed out to early investors, not backers, prior to the device's planned consumer launch, which is set to arrive at some point later this year. The company says it currently has a wait list for the Omni 1 of more than 35,000 subscribers. VRCover says 900 of its equity crowdfunding investors have applied to buy the Omni 1 beta units, which will be extended to late 2023. However, unit quantities will start small and gradually increase as the program proceeds. VR treadmills are something I find really interesting. We got to try out 2 iterations of the Cat VR, which was an incredible experience. Being able to actually run in VR, feel that freedom of, this room is absolutely tiny. I'm not normally able to run around in here. I'm not normally able to rotate, punch in any direction. Actually being able to use a treadmill and feel the ability of running was absolutely incredible. It gives you an entirely new sense of freedom, especially in apps such as The Forest or No Man's Sky, where you get to see that endless nature of the world and you get to run towards it. It's something completely different that you don't get to feel by just walking a few steps backwards and forwards inside your room and using a joystick. Now, VR treadmills aren't for everyone, but they're absolutely fantastic for people with smaller play spaces or people that just want that extra grab of immersion. So I am very excited to see more of them coming to the market, and of course, if you're interested to learn more, I'll leave a link down below. Pico has an announcement to make. Quoting from their Twitter, "A new journey begins. Save the date, 22nd of March, 2023. Now, we don't exactly know what Pico is planning to announce on said date. However, we do think that they might be bringing the Pico 4 to the US. Finally. But again, we're not certain. The Pico 4 has been a fantastic PCVR device for me, and it's gone through multiple different updates, and I do think we need to take a second look at it. I need to record a few videos on the Pico 4, like how to get Android apps on it and stuff like that. There's a lot of videos in the pipeline, and I know a lot of people are very happy with their Pico 4s. However, if you lived in the US, it was actually impossible to get the device directly from Pico. You had to kind of get it through something like Amazon UK or something like that in order to get it into the country, which isn't something all people want to be doing. It's not difficult, it's just, kind of a way around it instead of going directly to the source. So if Pico does finally announce the Pico 4 inside the US, I would see a lot of people being very interested, but again, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. It could be something entirely different. They could be announcing standalone full body trackers for all we know. Now, onto a few titles. The Moss Studio announces VR competitive multiplayer closed beta signups are now live. Polyarc, the studio behind the Moss franchise, announced a new competitive multiplayer VR game currently in development. Polyarc isn't saying much beyond that. We still don't even know its name. However, a look at the game's concept art shows a definite influence from Moss's style and characters, including the Reader and a number of plucky mice heroes. Although we don't know too much about it, retrofitting Moss's third-action platforming view into a multiplayer battle game may mean the studio is pursuing something very similar in the feel of Moss, albeit with multiple classes and weapons. In the concept art, we see a glided Reader and a number of different mousy classes, a tank, archer, knight, wizard, and even some evil leafy dudes. That is going to be quite interesting. I was personally quite a fan of the Moss franchise, and there was some beautiful, beautiful artwork there. Definitely reminded me of Lucky's Tale quite a bit, and I'm very nostalgic about that game. It was one of the first titles I got to play on my CV1, so you can kind of see why I'd be very inclined to play titles like this. Them creating a game that is influenced by this and adding multiplayer to it is going to be quite interesting to see. I can't wait to find out what they're releasing, and with that being said, next piece of news. Zero Caliber is working on some new maps. Zero Caliber Reloaded gets new PvP maps, visual upgrades, and more on Quest. Xreal Games released a major Zero Caliber Reloaded update last week, adding 3 new maps, upgraded visuals, and more on Quest, marking the first Zero Caliber Reloaded update in over 7 months. Xreal Games announced that the Raid, Wharf, and Train PvP maps are now live. Alongside a redesigned water-based boss fight, each weapon and some environments received visual improvements. Full-body character models can now be switched off. Updated holster handling for grabbing different items should now be much more comfortable, while new settings include customizable controller mapping. This is quite a big update, and yeah, there hasn't been one in over 7 months, but waiting for an update like this, fans of Zero Caliber Reloaded can hopefully feel like they got what they waited for. Now, with that being said, let's move on to something a little bit different. Our friends over at VRCover have sent us out a few VR covers to test out, and these ones I'm quite excited about. They're not your typical kind, but either way, let's take a look. So, in my hands here, I've got the head strap cover for the Meta Quest Pro and the VR cover for the Pico 4. As you can tell, these aren't going to be your typical hard-shell facial interfaces, which I do believe quite a few people are waiting for. But let's check this out. So this is the head strap cover for the Meta Quest Pro. Oh, that's cool. It's a nice little... well, that's made it instantly clear. That one's empty. That one's also empty. Whoop. So you do get 2 of these. They're very nice feeling cotton. Let's put them on. Okay, so we've got a nice, just like that. That looks pretty nice, actually. I'm going to try put it on, see how it feels, see if it feels any softer. Theoretically speaking, it should. Ooh, definitely quite a different feel. Feels more like a cushion on my forehead now than it does just like a silicone pad, which is really, really nice. First impressions are really, really good. And now let's test out the Pico 4, which I assume is going to be much of the same. Just a nice little cotton pad to put over the Pico 4's facial interface. And here we go. The VR cover, cotton cover for the Pico 4 is installed. Now, I must say, this one wasn't as simple as the other one, and it definitely leaves a little bit to be desired. Like, the straps have to kind of mount around it like this, meaning it doesn't entirely sit flush with the headset anymore, but once you put it on your face, it does push down. So that's fine. I'm more than happy with that if it feels comfortable. It doesn't fix the fact that the Pico 4's facial interface is quite rough and doesn't mold to my face very well, but it does feel a little bit softer, so I will actually be leaving it on. Either way, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do leave a like. If you disliked it, I guess this one works too, but let me know why down below. If you guys are not yet part of the community, check out the Discord down below, check out the Reddit. I want to see you posting your spicy memes on there, and thank you so much to all the lovely names going off to my right now. Those guys are my Patreons. You guys are helping me out so much right now, so seriously, thank you a lot. And as usual, if you want to be notified of future content coming up on the channel daily, make sure to smack the subscribe button with your forehead, ding my bell, and see you again in the next video.